находимся в штабе. 7 часов 30 минут утра. Под контролем.
In June this year, Yevgeny Prigozhin, the head of the Wagner private military company, led an armed rebellion in Russia, presenting his former mentor, President Vladimir Putin, with one of the most dramatic challenges to his power in decades. Prigozhin questioned the Kremlin's motives for invading Ukraine and accused the Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu of ordering deadly airstrikes on Wagner fighters. Speculation about Yevgeny Prigozhin's eventual fate soon began after his march on Russia. And exactly 2 months later, on the 23rd of August, the mercenary leader's private jet fell out of the sky. Russia's investigative committee, which investigates serious crimes in the country, confirmed on the 27th of August the head of the Wagner mercenary group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, was among the 10 people killed in a plane crash.
Пригожина я знал очень давно, с начала 90-х годов. Это был человек сложной судьбы, и ошибки у него были серьезные в жизни, и добивался он результатов нужных и для себя, и тогда, когда я его просил об этом для общего дела, как вот в эти последние месяцы.
Details of what exactly occurred in the aftermath of Prigozhin's death remain murky. However, an old video of the mercenary group's chief has gone viral, rekindling conspiracy theories surrounding his death in a plane crash in Russia. In the video, Prigozhin is seen drawing an unsettling analogy between Russia's wartime trajectory and an impending plane disintegration mid-flight.
Лучше убейте меня. Но я не буду обманывать, я должен честно сказать, Россия стоит на грани катастрофы. Если сегодня не отрегулировать эти винтики, то самолет рассыпется в воздухе.
Выходим в тыловые районы.
In this episode, we understand who was Yevgeny Prigozhin. When and how did Putin's friendship with Prigozhin turn ugly? And is there any convincing evidence pointing to the Kremlin's involvement in the crash?
So I don't believe that Putin was somehow involved in this tragic story. However, it's very difficult for me to believe that it was an accident. Even though, yes, Prigozhin had his private jet, and that private jet did not have spare parts since the beginning of the Western sanctions against Russia last year. So theoretically, it is not to be excluded that something malfunctioned in the plane. But I'm surprised why the world media does not view the version that he could be targeted by Ukrainian or Western special services.
During the post-coup period, the story didn't make sense that a colleague of Putin would turn against him. And Putin's response was, hey, don't worry about it. Go to Belarus. Let's let bygones be bygones. This is not Vladimir Putin. He destroys his enemies. He does not accommodate them. We don't yet know exactly how and why this aircraft came down. The predominant theory from the U.S. intelligence services is that there was a bomb on board because there's no clear signature of a missile that hit the plane. But I think it's safe to say that there's a pretty good likelihood that this was a deliberate explosion that took down the plane in an effort to kill not just Prigozhin, but other key leaders of Wagner.
What's next for Wagner after Prigozhin's death? And what does this mean for Russia and its war in Ukraine? We decode this and more. 62-year-old Yevgeny Prigozhin headed the mercenary group Wagner. The Wagner Group was first identified in 2014 when it started backing pro-Russian separatist forces in eastern Ukraine. In the same year, it also helped Russia annex Crimea. Wagner had about 5,000 fighters, mostly veterans of Russia's elite regiments and special forces. However, its numbers have grown considerably since the war in Ukraine. The group now claims to have 25,000 troops. Although mercenary forces are technically illegal in Russia, Wagner registered as a company in 2022, and over the years the group has become the de facto private army of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Born in St. Petersburg in Russia on the 1st of June in 1961, Prigozhin spent 9 years in Soviet prisons for crimes including robbery and fraud. He was released in 1990, a year before the Soviet Union dissolved. He launched a career as a caterer and restaurateur. He's believed to have met Putin, then a top aide to St. Petersburg's mayor at this time. Leveraging political connections, Prigozhin was awarded major state contracts. He became known as Putin's chef after catering for Kremlin events. More recently, he joked that Putin's butcher would be more appropriate. These photos show him serving George Bush, among others. Even though Prigozhin and his mercenaries had become increasingly important for stamping President Putin's authority, the Kremlin kept maintaining that it had no connection to him. Thus, Prigozhin, too, kept a low public profile. Even as Wagner conducted operations on Moscow's behalf in Syria and in several African countries, Prigozhin denied any affiliation.
Подразделения ЧВК «Вагнер» практически окружили Бахмут.
Prigozhin soared to prominence only after Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. The Wagner fighters led the Russian assault on the city of Bakhmut in the longest and bloodiest battle of the war. Prigozhin later used social media to boast about his successes.
Нужно поздравить всех парней, которые воюют, которые находятся на передовой, в госпитале, военных, которые